Trump faces chaos after Iran plans to close the Red Sea and turn the Bab el-Mandeb Strait into a new pressure point against the United States.
Here's part of the problem. To effectively disrupt traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, Iran doesn't need, for example, to put a barrier of ships across the strait and keep them there. All they need to do is launch attacks, occasional attacks with drones, missiles, or anti-ship cruise missiles on any ship they don't give permission to cross the strait when it tries to do so. And just that is enough to make insurance companies simply stop offering coverage, right? That's called an insurance blockade. And yes, this has proven to be extremely effective for the Iranians' purposes. However, if they reignite conflict by trying this, it is almost certain, as the Iranians have already said, that they themselves will take the next step up the escalation ladder and will have Ansar Allah making that move for them.
After provoking a serious disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, Tehran began to signal that it could use the Houthis in Yemen to threaten the passage that connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden and the Indian Ocean. The maneuver would target cargo ships, oil tankers, and commercial routes used between Asia, Europe, and the Mediterranean. Mohsen Rezai, military advisor to the Iranian supreme leader, stated that if the war and the blockade continue, the conflict could be taken to the Indian Ocean, the Red Sea, and even the Mediterranean.
But it's also disastrous for Iran. It was an extensive bombing campaign.
If the war continues and the naval blockade is not lifted, we will take the war to the Indian Ocean, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the Red Sea, and the Mediterranean. And we will take the conflict to another level by attacking those other American bases that we have already attacked so far. The United States will certainly suffer much greater losses. The losses of the United States will be very heavy.
And in Yemen, the Houthis have already warned that all options remain open. Trump now faces a clear attempt to increase the cost of the war, pressure the United States allies, spread fear among shipping companies, and use energy prices as a political weapon. Bab el-Mandeb accounts for about 12% of world trade in normal times. Meanwhile, data from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development shows that the route accounted for 20% of container shipping in 2023. What is Tehran preparing? How does Trump intend to prevent this siege?
Do you foresee that the attacks we are seeing this week against Iran will expand? Are you considering targeting energy sites or other locations inside Iran?
Considering Iran's energy sector, I'll leave the energy targets for last, but yes, we will hit the energy targets. But we will attack them with great force tonight, and we will repeat this tomorrow night. We will attack them with great force the following night. Next week, things will get really bad for them because we will hit the power plants and the bridges. We will take down all their power plants. We will take down all their bridges unless they come to the table and negotiate.
The Iranian plan gained momentum on July 14 and 15, 2026, when new threats emerged at the same time that the United States resumed the naval blockade against ports and cargo linked to Iran. The pressure doesn't depend on a complete physical occupation of the strait. The Houthis can drive companies away just with threats and attacks against a few ships. That's how the group has already managed to reduce traffic through the Red Sea in earlier phases of the crisis. When insurers raise the price of coverage and major shipping companies reroute their ships around the south of Africa, traffic through the passage drops even without a barrier across the sea. Tehran tries to use this capability to show that if Iranian trade is blocked in Hormuz, other nations will also pay the price in Bab el-Mandeb. The threat comes from Yemen because the territory controlled by the Houthis is located right in front of one of the narrowest and most sensitive trade passages. Bab el-Mandeb connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden and opens the way to the Suez Canal. Ships that stop using this route have to go around the Cape of Good Hope, increasing distance, fuel consumption, delivery time, and freight costs. Data from the United States Energy Information Administration shows that 5.4 million barrels per day of oil and derivatives passed through the strait in the first quarter of 2020. The threat doesn't affect only fuel. Containers with food, machinery, medicine, industrial parts, and consumer products can also face delays and price increases. Mohammed al-Bukaid, a member of the Houthi political command, had already stated that the group was considering all scenarios to support Iran and that
Iran recently announced the closure of the Strait of Hormuz to the United States, Israel, and their allies. Has Ansar Allah ever considered taking a similar measure regarding the Bab al-Mandeb Strait?
Are all options on the table? And what if we're forced to play the Bab al-Mandeb card? Then we'll use that card flexibly in a way that targets all the countries involved in the aggression against Lebanon and against Iran.
When can action be taken regarding the strait? And how can that be implemented? I mean, could you give me more clarification?
Certainly. The Bab al-Mandeb card is one of the most important strategies available to Yemen, and this will be officially announced soon.
Now the pressure has returned even stronger because the war between the United States and Iran has reignited and Yemen has entered a new round of escalation with Saudi Arabia. On July 13, the Houthis launched missiles and drones against Aba airport after attacks on Sana'a airport. The movement showed that it still has the capability to hit targets outside Yemen and that it can combine local warfare with a strategic terrorism agenda. Mohsen Rezai made this connection even more explicit. The Iranian advisor didn't just talk about Hormuz. He mentioned an entire stretch that starts from the Indian Ocean, passes through Bab al-Mandeb, crosses the Red Sea, and reaches the Mediterranean. The threat reveals the regime's objective: to spread war along routes that support energy, trade, and United States military bases. Iran is under pressure from attacks, naval blockade, and loss of military capability. Without enough strength to defeat the United States head-on, it tries to multiply crisis points and make Washington spend more resources to protect ships, bases, and allies in different areas at the same time. Trump responded by increasing the pressure.
Navigation data shows that only 10 ships passed through the Strait of Hormuz on Monday, less than a tenth of the normal traffic for this critical route. When you say the strait is open, what do you mean?
It's open for anyone who wants to pass. We're not opening it for Iran. It's only closed to them. Iran is closed, but it's open. A lot has happened, Trey, in the last few months. Oil pipelines are being built. We're finding great alternatives like in Texas and Alaska.
In an interview with Fox News, the president stated that the passage through Hormuz will remain open for trade, but closed to vessels linked to Iran. He also abandoned the proposal to charge a 20% fee on cargo crossing the strait and said he would seek trade agreements and investments with Gulf nations. The decision aims to maintain regional support and separate international trade from the targeted blockade against Tehran. At the same time, Trump threatened to target Iranian power plants and bridges if the regime does not return to the negotiating table. Washington wants to show that every new front opened by Iran will be met with a heavier response against its own military and economic structure. The pressure has also reached American bases in the region. Satellite images published after the clashes indicated damage to facilities at the Al Udeid air base in Qatar, including an aircraft maintenance area. The base is one of the most important centers for United States air operations in the Middle East. The attack reinforces the Iranian strategy of spreading risks across Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, and other areas that host American forces. Even when the missiles do not cause heavy casualties, they force the United States to move air defenses, disrupt activities, and protect an extensive military network. Trump also acknowledged that he believed in the possibility of regime change when he called on the Iranian people to take control of the government after the military operations. The response shows that the White House saw the offensive not just as an action to protect ships or contain attacks, but as an opportunity to weaken Iran's ruling leadership. Now, Trump is betting on blockades, attacks, and economic pressure to force a negotiation without immediately sending a large ground force.
On the first night of Operation Epic Fury, you addressed the world and the Iranian people directly. You told them, when we're done, take control of your government. It will be yours. America is supporting you with overwhelming force. Do you still believe that the Iranian people are capable of taking control of their own government?
I think they're afraid. They're being shot.
When you made those comments, yes, did you believe that regime change was possible then?
Yes, I believed it. If they had weapons or armament, I never thought they would kill 52,000 people or anyone.
On July 15th, Brent crude oil was close to $85 per barrel. Reuters reported that analyses related to the scenario of the Bab el-Mandeb closure mentioned prices as high as $200. Hormuz carries about a quarter of the oil transported by sea, and Bab el-Mandeb moves millions of barrels per day. If both passages are hit at the same time, the impact affects fuel, inflation, transportation, and industrial production. The Iranian regime tries to turn this global vulnerability into protection for itself. Tehran wants to convince the United States allies that supporting Trump will be costly and that any blockade against Iran could boomerang into an energy crisis for everyone. The Houthis act as leverage because they can operate from Yemen, threaten the Red Sea, and give Iran room to deny direct control over each attack. This tactical move increases insecurity, but it also exposes the group to a new American military campaign. The United States has already attacked Houthi positions when the movement threatened navigation, and Trump made it clear that he holds Tehran responsible for the actions of its armed allies. Thank you very much for watching this video until the end. Support our project and contribute financially through the Pix key that appears on your screen. We are an independent channel focused on keeping you informed with the facts. Your contribution helps us keep going.